Hello and welcome to the exclusive podcast of TechGig Leaders Circle, your front row seat to the minds redefining how technology moves, thinks, and serves in a smarter world. I'm your host Sukriti, and today's conversation is one that touches every business, every customer, and every developer behind this screen. We are diving into the future of customer experience in the agentic age, where intelligent systems don't just respond but anticipate, act, and evolve. Joining us today is someone who is at the heart of this transformation, Sumeet Mathur, Senior Vice President and Managing Director at ServiceNow India Technology and Business Center. Sumeet brings decades of experience in driving enterprise innovation and building future-ready digital ecosystems. It's a pleasure to have you here with me, Sumeet.
Thank you for having me, Sukriti. It's a pleasure as well.
All right. So, Sumit, the way we think about customer experience is changing rapidly, and with AI chatbots now mainstream and autonomous agents becoming increasingly sophisticated, we're clearly moving from reactive support to proactive intelligent service. Now, with you, let's just begin with the current market trends in the world of agentic AI altogether. Could you shed some light on its adoption rate, market demand supply dynamics, and what's the next wave of innovation in this space that might look like?
Yeah. No, thanks for that, Sukri. So I think before we jump into agentic AI, let's see how we got here, right? I mean, if you look at a few years back, we were all talking about what now we call traditional AI, right? So, from a customer experience perspective, like if you ever visited a e-commerce site, right, it would say, hey, customers who bought X bought Y. If you're looking at buying belts, right, they will give you a recommendation. Hey, you should look at shoes to buy or trousers. Or in case of OTT, customer who watched this series, right, should watch another series and things like that. That was all because we had this algorithms to do clustering and do prediction. So it was all about predicting. And then we moved into chatbot and natural language processing. What's my account balance? And it will spit out your account balance so that you don't have to call somebody. And then from there, about 2 years back, there was this whole wave of generative AI, which was a lot more personalized, contextual response back. So if I've applied a loan to the bank and I want to know what the status of my loan application is, it could generate a very personalized response back to me on my status, what the next step is for my case. But from there, now with agentic AI, we are moving into these autonomous agents that can do complex set of series of steps for end-to-end processing. Think of it as like, and again, going back to an e-commerce example, when you are returning an order, right? There could be series of agents that could process your return, schedule your pickup, update your history, process your refund back, update the inventory of the warehouse, and so on and so forth. All a series of steps that get kicked off by this agentic AI behavior, right? So we've kind of moved from a pretty actually, if you take a step back, we moved from you calling in, you press one for account status to where is my account status to like all the way to agentic AI solving complex things, right? And what has happened is as the technology has gotten better and better, and the customers are getting used to this technology, the expectations of improved customer experience is going up, especially by the Indian consumers. And why I specifically say about Indian consumers is we are a much younger demography. We are fastest growing economy. We are a much younger demography. With that comes a lot more comfort with technology. Our younger force is always using the latest and the greatest, whether it's on the consumer side or on social media, right? So their comfort level with tools like AI and usage of AI is much high. And they expect enterprises to adopt them to serve them better. Now, where are we on the agentic AI deployment? I think we are still in the early stages of it,
Okay.
right? While the traditional AI has been pretty much deployed in
Mm-hmm.
enterprises. The chatbots are quite prevalent in enterprises, both public and private sector. But I think when it comes to generative AI and agentic AI, we are still in early stages of large scale deployment. That doesn't mean that enterprises are not putting it out there, testing it out, but to be able to use them at scale, we
Mm-hmm.
we are not there. And some of that is part of the journey, and some of that is organizations making sure that they are secure, they are efficient, as well as their employee base is trained in doing that. And there are some disconnects within the organizations that is preventing for it to scale sooner than later. And we can talk about it. What are the some of those limitations that are preventing Indian enterprises to provide much more superior customer experience than what it is today?
It's very much on the cards in today's conversation, Sumeet. Moving on to the next one that I have for you today is that many organizations, still struggle, as you said, that with fragmented systems and disconnected teams. And you also, just spoke about how we are still not there. We're in an innovation stage. How can AI-driven workflows help address these legacy challenges altogether?
Yeah. So first I want to paint the picture of where the problem area is,
Yeah.
right? So if you look at it, right, we did a recent survey on customer experience,
Mhm.
and what we did was we surveyed not only the end customers, we also surveyed support agents to get the both sides of the equation. And what we found is, you know, ironically, about 60% of the customer support agents believe that they are solving customer problems in 30 minutes. And when you
Okay.
ask the customers, right, when you ask the end consumers, they believe the average resolution time is 3.8 days. 30 minutes, 3.8 days. So there's a big disconnect. That is a
Mhm.
gap that is problematic for organizations because that directly drives their revenue, top line, customer retention, etc. And the survey also said that collectively in India in 2024, people were on hold for 15 billion hours. 15 billion of hours, India is on hold. Look at the staggering amount of economic, financial, customer sat impact that Indian businesses are going through. So clearly, there is an opportunity and a disconnect between what your customers are feeling and perceiving versus what inside the organizations are feeling and perceiving about customer experience. And when you double click and you look at what is happening and you ask the agents, "Hey, where are you spending your time on?" Like if I'm asking this question to a customer support agent, my expectation is that they would respond that a large part of their time in the day gets spent in solving and resolving customer problems. But that's not what the data says. The data says that they spend only 16% of their time doing what they signed up for, which is actively resolving customer issues. Just 16%. So where is the rest of the time going? The rest of the time is going in administrative stuff, doing something manual, which could have been easily automated, chasing other teams or departments, right? So if you're in front end and you need to know whether the finance team has processed the refund or not, you're chasing that department for an answer, or you are waiting to get an answer from somebody else within your organization, or you're like, you know, doing training or some other stuff. But only 16% of time is being spent on directly solving customer problems. So there's clearly an opportunity for enterprises to do something about freeing up their agents to spend more time on that, right? And so, and then you peel the onion further and say, what's going on, right? Like, we have all heard the term digital transformation for decades.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is, organizations have digitized but not transformed. And by that, what I mean is like you look at each part of the organization, whether it's your front office, whether your middle office, back office, your finance department, your HR department, your customer support organization, your inventory management, supply chain, etc. They have all built their own technology stack and have digitized that, but they're not interconnected with each other to solve
Okay.
an end-to-end business problem, right? I mean, example we talked about, where is my refund? Such a
Mm-hmm.
simple question, but it touches so many different parts of your organization from front, middle, and back office for you to be able to give a response back to the customer. And when you have silo within the organizations, you can't basically provide excellent customer service. And you frustrate your own employees because they are now doing things that they shouldn't be doing, like chasing answers and waiting for somebody to let them know what to do. And those are the things that are preventing today's organizations to uplevel their customer experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
And drive that top line and bottom line growth. So agentic AI is a technology, cannot solve the problems inherent to the structure of your organization unless you solve for it intentionally.
It's fantastic. I'm quite impressed with the term that you've just, brought into the conversation, Sumit, which we are digitized but not transformed. I think a concept that is very, very not often spoken about, and it's not primary the focus that has been so far in the conversations as well, Sumit. Thank you for bringing that. And now this also brings me to the cultural aspect of transformation, which you've just spoken, right? That as a legacy, there's a problem. The agentic AI cannot fix that, right? What are the most significant operational or cultural shifts required for organizations to fully leverage autonomous customer services systems? Is it the leadership mindset, the cross-functional collaboration, or maybe how the success is measured for them? What do you think?
Yeah, no, so I think what I've when I speak to the CXOs, right, the journey of agentic AI, or journey of transforming the technology within your organization to drive business outcome, has to start from the top. You got to
Correct.
start with a strategy in mind to drive that, right? And for that, you got to look at end-to-end use case, right? And they could be industry specific use cases, but I'll give you examples of very common use cases. Like, everybody has to go through employee onboarding, and you got to
Mm-hmm.
train your customer support agents, or whatever function you are, right? Hire to retire is an end-to-end use case. Like, an employee onboarding is an end-to-end use case, and multiple departments come into the play. Similarly, source to pay, order to cash. These are very you know industry agnostic use cases. But if you start peeling the onion and you look at different parts of your organization that get involved in these use cases, end-to-end use cases, or to serve a customer effectively, right? And you look at them and you say, are they on the same platform? Are they on the same data model, same architecture? So there is a seamless exchange of status updates, or task, or knowledge base for your employees to leverage, so that there's a single pane of glass for them. Interestingly, one of the other things that we found in our survey, uh, once customer support agent uh, looks at, on an average, 3.4 different systems to do their job. And 26% of them said that they look at 5 different systems to solve a customer problem, or when they're interacting with a customer. If you have to go from one system to another, you're making the life of a customer support agent much more difficult,
Yeah.
right? And it will reflect in the kind of service you're going to provide to the customer. And hence, the strategy that I talk about that needs to come down from the top is all about, do we have a unified platform, right, that cuts across the silos of my organization to drive a singular business outcome, right? So that's why the leadership needs to start from there.
Okay.
And then that's one part. How do you define the strategy? And that strategy needs to be broken down into a technology strategy and what the different personas will experience because of that strategy, whether it's an employee or it's a customer, right? So that's one piece. The other equally important piece is, as you start talking about agentic or any new technology, is how are you preparing your organization to uptake that? What about skilling, right? Is it changing your business process? Are your employees trained to adopt the new technology in a way that is meaningful, right? And what is it? What are those low-hanging fruits or repetitive manual work that nobody wants to do, right? You want to focus. If I'm a customer support agent, I want to focus on solving Sukriti's problem. I am not focused on doing manual administrative stuff, which I know can be automated or can be done uh, by a technology on its own. So that's the other piece of it, right? How are you preparing your organization from a skilling perspective, identifying those low-hanging fruit to solve for that? So strategy and execution goes hand in hand, but you got to start from the top.
Fantastic. I would like to, throw some light and put our developers in the spotlight right now, Sumit, because as we speak, they are the core members functioning when it comes to these technologies. I want to talk about the builder's experience and the perspective here, and how agentic AI is still very much powered of what developers design and deploy in any organization, across functions, industries. What competencies or mindset are most critical for engineering teams building for these agentic age, and how should they think about integrating intelligence into existing workflows, as we spoke of strategy and bringing in the balance between skilled workforce?
Yeah, so I think one of the areas where agentic AI has actually been a little bit ahead in its advancement is helping the developer community to kind of build these, build this framework of the code base so that they don't have to start from scratch building the source code, right? And these applications, you always have to start with what problem are you solving for. And once you have a better understanding of what problem you are solving for, you could take help of an agentic AI or put the right prompt for a large language model to spit out the piece of code that then you can use to build the applications. So I always believe that tomorrow's developers don't need to know the syntax of Java, right? As much as they need to understand the domain that they are working on, the problem articulation, and the understanding of for what persona are you trying to solve the problem for. So once you have a better understanding of the business and the problem domain, you could translate into a good level of prompt engineering that can spit out the code. We internally are also starting to use a lot of these agentic AI tools to accelerate the velocity of our developers, right? And there's a bunch of work that goes on in software development that is manual and repetitive. That is like almost like a piece of code that should be generated through this agentic AI. But then there is a lot of governance and there's a lot of extra intelligence that our developers put on top of that to make sure it's serving the right purpose and ensuring that we spend a lot more time on the problem domain and making sure what output we get is the right output that we expected it to be. You need to worry about performance. You need to worry about scale. You need to worry about accessibility and all that stuff. right? And you need to put a sense of governance on top of it. Look, we always say, right? You didn't ask this question, but it always comes along with this question is, does it mean that you need less developers now, right? And my answer is no. We have so much work to do. There is like lots and lots of work that every organization has to do. So you don't need less developers. You're actually making your developers more productive so they can solve higher degree problem for your enterprise, for your business, and for your end customers, right? So it's the AI is not going to take up anybody's job, but people who know how to use AI will take up the job of people who do not use AI. It's a power tool that you need to know how to use to better do your job, but it doesn't mean that you need less developers in the future.
Okay, that was about the organization's structuring perspective, building teams. Sumeet, I would like now to get to the fundamental realities, the ground realities that exist with these organizations. Could you share some examples of how these developer-built logic, or let's just say orchestration layers, are enabling more consistent, faster, and personalized customer outcomes? Perhaps something you've seen evolve at ServiceNow or in the broader ecosystem?
Yeah, this whole set of technologies, generative and agentic, it helps to give you a personalized answer, right? And we have lots of use cases that we have deployed internally. We deploy every product that we build. We kind of first deploy it internally to see its effectiveness, and we track it, right? So we have about, I think, $350 million of outcomes or values we get annually from AI. Right? And some of the examples that we have seen being used is these tools have kind of given the power now to the end user. So if you are in a marketing department and you want to build an application because a marketing launch is coming up next week or in a month's time, traditionally, what you would do is you'll create a set of requirements and give it to your IT department to code and build a mobile app or applications and things like that. Now, as a functional owner and domain expert, you could potentially do it yourself. So a lot of our, in our organization, our HR department, our finance department, our facilities folks have started building apps that make sense for them without having to depend on an IT people to kind of build the apps for, right? And that has what that has done is that has freed up our developers to do higher end work, a lot more complex work, right? Because and what we now focus on, our developers now focus on, is end-to-end system interactions in a large enterprise. So for example, whenever you have a Fortune 500 enterprise, you don't have one system, you have multiple systems. You could have multiple applications, and they are all coming up with agentic AI solutions and agents, right? How do you work such that your agent can interact with another system's agent and in a network of almost like orchestration, so you drive an outcome? Because remember, we started with the saying that we want to break the silos within an organization. And if you're only building agentic AI that only works within your own technology stack, you will go back to the silo of the technology stack and not drive end-to-end outcome. So you want to kind of push the boundary of agentic AI to work across systems, right? And that's where you want to put the firepower of your developers to solve for that, right? Each vision within your own silo stacks, you could have a much simpler set of applications to be built by, either LLMs or by domain experts themselves, right? So that's how we kind of looking at how, and like as an engineering leader, how do I use my developers' brain power and human intelligence in augmentation with AI intelligence to kind of drive the final outcome. Does it make sense?
Okay, Absolutely. I mean, I'm so surprised with the kind of evolution that Agentic is itself is making every day, Sumit. And all of us are definitely looking forward to something new every day. Talking about the newness that that is brought to the table in the tech world, what trends do you think will shape the next phase of customer experience innovation? Can there be more intelligent agents, autonomous service networks, or maybe hyper personalization? What is your take?
Yeah, I mean, hyper personalization is for sure. Like one, it's going to be omni-channel, right? I mean, you interact with or emails, your web, your mobile app, voice. Voice is becoming a big AI agent play as well. So one is omni-channel. The other one is multilingual, especially in India, because we have so many
Okay.
languages. So multilingual is also going to be important for us. The next is like this agent to agent communication, right? So various different. So you have an orchestrator that kind of goes and works with various different agents, whether it's in your technology stack, with your vendor, your partner, other applications to drive one outcome. And giving putting all this and making sure it's governed, it has a layer of security controls. It's the risk is managed well. That also is a very important element for somebody to deploy it in live in production. It needs to be secure, it needs to be performant, it needs to be scalable, and it needs to be governed and managed in the same way. Like, you know um, I think Nvidia's Jensen Huang basically said this. um, the the IT department of the future
Mhm.
will be like HR department for your agents, because they need to determine which agents to. So they need to identify which agents are relevant. Then they need to onboard them. Then they need
Mhm.
to worry about their journey and their growth and how are they performing within an organization. And when it's not performing well or something new comes up, they need to retire them. So just like an employee journey from hire to retire happens, you will have an agentic AI journey from hire to retire that happens, and somebody has to manage that. That's the role of IT department in the future, right? So I think those are the kind of stuff that we will see more and more happening. Yes, the large language models will continue to evolve. They'll get much more efficient, much more accurate, less hallucination, etc. But where I get excited personally is how are we going to use the technology to solve real problems? And to solve real problems, to solve real customers' problems and business problems, you need to look at from a lens of what will it take for me to put this technology in production at scale, right? Secure, performant, scalable, easy to deploy, easy to implement, easy to use. And those are the factors that will determine of how fast and how successful this technology will be in a particular enterprise or business.
Fantastic, Sumit. I don't think it could have been, more crafted in a proper, precise manner what you've put across the table for us today. Thank you. And I would now like to, come to an end of this conversation with something that our readers who are listening to this, podcast can actually take over. Is that as customer experience becomes more AI-led as we speak, what action should industry leaders take now to make sure that they are, staying relevant and competitive? What is your playbook that that it looks like, and what are you preparing from your organization for the agentic AI space?
Yeah, I think the first one is this technology is moving so rapidly. Just to be aware of what's going on and what there's also noise and FUD. So you got to parse out, what's relevant for me, my industry, my context, my business, my geography, and then applying that and inside your organization. You always need
Mhm.
to have a, a curious mind. And and one of the things, Sukriti, I feel is this is a transformational period in the technology landscape. And as there were, and also business, as there were organizations that became irrelevant when internet came or cloud came in or mobile first came in, as now we are moving to an AI first mindset, there'll be enterprises that will get outdated, and you don't want to be the one that kind of goes out of business because either you're too comfortable with what's happening in an organization, or you are too slow to react and adopt. So it's it's a time of great responsibility for leadership, I think, because this is probably a generational movement of technology shift that we have never seen before, and got to think everything from an AI first mindset before anything else, and give both the freedom, the flexibility, and empowerment to your organization to experiment, and so that you could be one of those businesses that could adopt the technology sooner than later, so you are still profitable, driving top line and bottom line. But I think the responsibility starts from the leadership.
This was such a rich and forward-looking conversation, Sumeet. Thank you so much for sharing your insights with us, and more importantly, for helping us rethink on how can we deliver value to customers in this new era of intelligence that everybody is looking forward to. Right? Thank you so much for doing this with us. To our audience, if you're an engineer, a product leader, or someone who is shaping customer journeys, the agentic age is your call to innovate differently. This is TechGig Leaders Circle, and I'm Sukriti, your host. See you next time with more conversations that shape the future. Sumeet, thank you so much once again
for being with us here in this podcast. Thank you very much. Take care. Bye-bye.